I bet we would all be millionaires if we got $1 for every time we heard the phrase, crime does not pay. There is no doubt that this phrase has moral importance. However, I'm sure that these 10 rich criminals did not give a damn about the phrase. These are people who got paid for doing some pretty bad things. Carlos Later. Later is affiliated to the powerful Medellin cartel, which was founded by Pablo Escobar, the man who is dubbed the king of cocaine due to the massive wealth he amassed from trafficking the substance. Later's own venture into cocaine trafficking started when he was in an American prison for car theft. While imprisoned, he enlisted his bunkmate and former marijuana dealer, George Jung, as a future partner in cocaine trafficking. After their release, Later and Jung set upon their drug smuggling venture as they envisioned in prison. With a professional pilot and a small stolen plane, the duo began flying cocaine to the United States through the Bahamas. Later and Jung spread money around among Bahamian government officials to ensure smooth passage through their country. As the venture boomed, Later set his sights on the Norman's Cay. In 1978, he harassed and threatened the island's residents as he was buying up property. Their former drug bin spent around $4.5 million on the island. From 1978 to 1982, the Cay was the Caribbean's main drug smuggling hub. Cocaine indiscriminately flew from Colombia and was distributed to several locations in the U.S. At the height of Later's operation, his wealth mounted into billions of dollars. He was so rich that he offered to pay the Colombian external debt twice. At the same point, he was estimated to be worth around $2 billion. Juan Cuo Coy. Cuo Coy, popularly known as Broken Tooth Coy, is a gangster and ex-leader of the Macau branch of the 14K Triad. The Triad is a group of transnational organized crime syndicate based in Hong Kong. In the 1990s, Cuo Coy was involved in a turf war against another gangster, Nick Wai. The war ended with Cuo Coy taking over Wai's rackets completely. Of course, that came with a massive power and influence on the streets. By this time, Cuo Coy was said to be earning $6 million monthly from his gambling establishments. If there was any questions about Cuo Coy's power in Macau, an answer came in 1997 when he overruled a decision of the Macau government. He closed down the busy Macau-Taipei Bridge for around 2 hours to allow filming of a scene in a movie based on his life. The police didn't dare to intervene. In 1999, Cuo Coy was jailed for various offenses, including illegal gambling, attempted murder of a police chief, amongst others. After his release in 2012, he reinstated himself in the casino junkets business and he continued to get paid in millions. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. El Chapo Guzman is a Mexican former drug lord who founded the Sinaloa cartel. The cartel is an international crime syndicate. For Guzman, his foray into the drug trade started with his father, who grew marijuana for local dealers. With the creation of his cartel in 1998, Guzman oversaw the production, smuggling, and distribution of cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine, and heroin throughout the US and Europe. Using long-range tunnels near borders, he was able to export more drugs to the US than any other trafficker in history. With Guzman's power came immense power and wealth that Forbes magazine ranked him as one of the most powerful people in the world between 2009 and 2013. By the time Guzman was sentenced to life in prison in the US in 2019, he had amassed billions in assets. In fact, a US court ordered the cartel boss to forfeit more than $12.6 billion. Jho Low. Jho Low is an international fugitive sought by Malaysian authorities in connection with a scandal involving 1MDB, Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund. Low was accused of masterminding a massive fraud and schemed to siphon $4.5 billion from 1MDB into his account. The US government has also accused Low of being the beneficiary of several discretionary trust assets that originated from payments out of the 1MDB fund. Despite the damning allegations, he has refused to submit himself to authorities, alleging a witch hunt. Using his massive wealth, Low allegedly gifted Kim Kardashian a $325,000 Ferrari in 2011. Several other celebrities have also received millions of dollars worth of gifts from Low, including Leonardo DiCaprio and Miranda Kerr. The international fugitive is believed to live in China, where he travels through major cities in secret, although the Chinese government has denied harboring him. Demetrius Flynn. Flynn, popularly known as Big Meech, founded the Black Mafia family, a cocaine distribution organization, in 1958. By 2000, Flynn and his Black Mafia family had established massive cocaine distribution sales throughout the US through direct links to Mexican drug cartels and their Los Angeles-based drug source. Flyn's venture is so huge that the drug ring held money and cocaine in custom-built stretched limousines. He distributed cocaine from the organization's main hub in Atlanta. In a cunning move to legitimize itself, BMF under Flannery ventured into the hip-hop music business as BMF Entertainment as a front group to launder money from drug sales. Apparently unmoved by the move, the DEA indicted members of the BMF, including Flannery, in 2005. Prosecutors alleged that Flannery's organization made more than $270 million from this operation. Flannery is presently serving a 30-year sentence in prison. Rayful Edmund III. Rayful Edmund III is an American former drug trafficker in the heart of the U.S. capital, Washington, D.C. in the 1980s. He is largely credited with introducing crack cocaine into the D.C. area during the crack epidemic that caused an exponential rise in the crime rate in the city. In 2021, a judge declared that Edmund ran the largest cocaine distribution operation in the history of the nation's capital. In the course of Edmund's operations, he moved large amounts of cocaine. Prosecutors said two of his associates brought between 1,000 to 2,000 kilos weekly from Trujillo Blanco brothers, who had an association with the notorious Medellin cartel. Notably, Edmund spent around $457,619 in an exclusive Georgetown store owned by Charles Wynn, who was convicted later on more than 30 counts of money laundering. Edmund's revenue is around $300 million annually, making him one of the richest drug dealers in U.S. history. In 1990, he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. In the most daring move, Edmund continued to run his drug trafficking ring from prison, earning him a separate 30-year sentence. Michael Franzese. Michael Franzese, an American former mobster, was a regime in the Colombo crime family. In the 1980s, Franzese and his associates defrauded the U.S. government out of gasoline taxes. Officials said that he kept 75% of their profits, earning $1.2 million monthly. An associate later testified that the former mobster personally earned $1 million weekly from the gas scheme. At the height of his operation, Franzese claimed that he made up to $8 million per week. Most professional sports players can only dream of earning such wages weekly. Unsurprisingly, he was listed as number 18 on Fortune magazine's list of the 50 most wealthy and powerful mafia bosses in 1986. Similarly, Vanity Fair described Franzese as one of the biggest money earners for the mafia since Al Capone, the notorious crime boss of the early 1900s. Salvatore Gravano. Salvatore Gravano, also known as Sammy the Bull, is an American former mobster. He was a mobster of the Colombian crime family before switching sides to the Gambino family. In the 1970s, Gravano worked for Gambino crime family boss Paul Castellano, who had a particular interest in the construction business. Gravano's business interest earned him a reputation as a successful earner with the Gambino family and made him a multi-millionaire. Flush with cash, he invested in several ventures, including the Plaza Suite, a popular discotheque in Brooklyn. In 1982, he sold the Plaza Suite to Frank Fiala, a wealthy drug trafficker, for $1 million. After helping to murder Gambino boss Castellano in 1985, Gravano was made the underboss of the Gambino crime family. Despite being a daredevil criminal in private, Gravano often mingled with executives from major construction firms publicly. Ricky Ross. Ricky Ross, also known as Freeway Rick, is best known for establishing a drug empire in California in the early to mid-1980s. Federal prosecutors said Ross brought and resold several metric tons of cocaine between 1982 and 1989. In the 1980s dollars, the former drug dealer's gross earnings were estimated to be more than $900 million, with a profit of almost $300 million. In 2014, he published his autobiography, which earned him more than $100,000 in sales. Efren Taylor. Efren Taylor is known for masterminding a Ponzi scheme that defrauded more than 400 people of $16 million. As part of the scheme, he traveled around the U.S. on Building Wealth tour, touting himself to church congregations as a socially conscious investor. However, Taylor's investment opportunities was a Ponzi scheme designed to build his wealth. The special agent in charge of Taylor's case described him as a habitual fraudster and a world-class manipulator. There is no doubt that he got rich from this fraudulent and manipulative venture. In the case of these criminals, crime paid and they became the richest criminals in the world.